So for more on this, we're now joined on the line by Impala Spokesperson Johan Theron. Mr. Theron, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Tell us how we got into this situation where the CEO of the Rustenburg operation has found himself in court.
Yes, Peter, indeed. Very regrettable and unfortunate. So the mining industry as a collective have actually been working with the Department of Mineral Resources for some time with the aim to bringing some people back after the Easter break. Now, it is very regrettable that in that process, the interpretation of the regulations by the police and the mining industry and the DMR clearly didn't align, which has brought us here.
All right, so what is the point of contention when you say interpretation and misinterpretation?
Yeah, so clearly the police take a very narrow and strict interpretation of only essential services. The mining industry agreed with the DMR a process to put precautionary measures in place and whereby mining companies can then apply to bring a few more people back to start looking after our underground infrastructure and get some operational activities going again. So as much as those processes was agreed upon and mining companies like Impala and others granted those permissions, that was obviously not accepted by the police.
All right, so have you contacted the DMR around this to get more clarity and perhaps for them to contact the police?
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of stakeholder engagement currently on the go because it's in absolutely nobody's interest. We are all faced by a very significant threat with the virus, and everybody wants to work together and pull together. So again, very regrettable that we ended here. So there's a lot of engagement on the go, and I'm very sure that something like this won't happen again.
We believe that certain mining operations have been allowed to continue, but at reduced capacity. Is 6,000 workers at Impala in Rustenburg at a reduced capacity?
Yes, very much so. So typically that operation will have about 40,000 people there. So this is far less than 20% of the normal workforce.
All right. And how do you decide what capacity is essential and what's not essential? How have you been able to demarcate?
So the first phase was only for essential workers to come back. And that was very easy because there you have to look at your vulnerable infrastructure and the people required to keep that going. I think the confusion came when there was agreement in the industry over and above those essential workers to bring some of the workforce back to do limited operating activities. And that's where we got into trouble.
So when are you hoping perhaps to get clarity on the interpretation for the police to allow your workers to come back to work?
Look, so the government has now gazetted new regulations that will allow mining companies to operate at a 50% capacity level, except for the coal mines supplying to Eskom, which can still continue to run at full capacity. So that's gone a long, long way to clarify the regulations, and that will help all mining companies to, in fact, bring workers back at those levels in line with the regulations.
All right. So every day that 80% of your workers are not at work, what happens to them? Will they be losing out on an income? Yeah,
so like most of the industry, Impala is committed to pay all of our workers for the first 21 days. So up until the end of this week, nobody would have lost any wages. It's from this week onwards where I think some of those measures will have to be instituted to conserve cash and look after the financial well-being of the companies. Because as you can imagine, having almost all of the cost and no revenue is very distressing for any organization. But everybody like ourselves have committed to go the extra mile to make sure that we minimize those impacts as far as possible.
All right, Mr. Theron, thanks very much indeed for joining us. That's Johan Theron, who's a spokesperson for Impala Platinum Mine, where the CEO has been granted 60,000 Rand bail for allegedly for contravening the lockdown regulations. The company is saying that fewer than 20% of the staff were called back to work, and that the agreement with the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy was up to 50%. If there were essential workers. And so it seems as if that not everybody's on the same page in terms of what these regulations actually mean. We'll have more for you on that. Hopefully we'll try and get someone from the police to give us